Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. Today I'm reviewing Justice League Infinity #1. Now, this series is set in the animated universe of Batman, the animated series, Superman, the animated series, Batman Beyond, and Justice League. And on the artist Bruce Timm of his work on those shows. Now, this picks up at some point after the Justice League series ended back in, I don't know, what was that, 2004? Somewhere around there. Anyway, we start with Amazo. And if you haven't seen the show, Amazo is an android that has godlike power. He can duplicate the abilities of other beings and objects, and his power has grown to the point that he's become a cosmic being. And he's lured across the universe by a call of some kind and finds what appears to be this doorway out somewhere in space. He goes through the doorway and he enters what appears to be some kind of hall of mirrors or something. Then we go to Earth, and we're in India, and we see this elderly pair of Indian folk talking. Then they go their separate ways, and they're talking in English for some reason. But they go their separate ways, and it turns out that the lady is actually the Martian Manhunter, and she's, I guess, masquerading as this woman. Then we go to the Justice League headquarters, and the Flash is arriving because he's gotten an emergency signal, and it turns out they're throwing a surprise birthday party for him. And they all congratulate him, and, they're all kidding around, and there's a bit of dialogue and some character stuff. And then Granny Goodness arrives through a boom tube with some parademons to attack the League. And then we go back to Amazo, and Amazo again is trapped in this place and can't find his way out, so he tries to smash his way out. He's not able to break out, but he does create this crack, and what appears to be some kind of energy or something starts kind of seeping through this crack. Then we go back to Earth, and Kalibak, Darkseid's son, arrives, also through a boom tube to attack the League as well. And it turns out, in the final the final episode of Justice League, Darkseid was apparently, I don't know, it's not sure what happened to him, but he vanished. And so since then, Apocalypse has been without a leader, and apparently Kalibak and Granny Goodness are kind of battling one another for control of Apocalypse. And both of them thought that taking out the League would demonstrate that they are the better choice and more worthy to be the leader. So he arrives to attack the League, but then both sides start attacking each other. And then Mr. Miracle is able to manipulate their boom tubes with his own mother box. And he's able to basically create new boom tubes that take them all back to Apocalypse where they belong. And while this is going on, Martian Manhunter in India, he senses that the League is under attack and he's about to go help them, but then he decides not to. I guess he's retired from the League and he's not a part of it anymore. And he's, I guess, just trying to live a normal life. I mean, as normal as a shape-shifting alien can. And so he decides not to go. He figures they can handle it. And anyway, after the attack is over and the villains are all sent back, then later that night, Superman and Lois are having a nice little dinner, romantic dinner together. And again, we see that energy that's sort of seeping out of the crack in that mirror out in space. And that causes a change, and Superman is replaced by this version of Superman who is from an alternate reality where basically he's kind of like a fascist Nazi Superman. And, of course, he wants to know what he's doing there, how did he get here and what's going on. And the issue ends there. So, when I was reading through this the first time, I was thinking, wow, this comic would be a good jumping on point for new readers, especially for young readers. It's got a more lighthearted tone. It captures the feel of the cartoons effectively, and it exists in its own continuity with the animated shows instead of with the regular DCU, so there isn't all these decades of history that you kind of need to be informed on. It's much simpler, and you don't need to know a whole ton of background about what's going on, right? But then reading through it again, I kind of realized, actually you do need background for this. This comic assumes that you have watched those animated shows from years ago and have at least some passing knowledge of these characters. I mean, who is Amazo? The book doesn't really tell you. What's Apocalypse? Who's Granny Goodness or Calabac? This issue makes no attempt to explain these things to the reader. So if you haven't seen the Justice League cartoon, you're going to be pretty lost when you're reading this. So it actually doesn't make for the great jumping on point I originally thought at first. Now, back in the old days, and I'm talking like the 60s and 70s, 80s, maybe the 90s too, there was a saying, every comic is somebody's first comic. Comics were supposed to be written so that anyone could pick up an issue and get a basic understanding of who the characters are and what's going on. The characters would all get named, they would display their powers, and the villains would get the same treatment. That's really absent here, and I think that it's a missed opportunity, because I'd love to be able to say, hey, this is a great issue for new readers to jump on. But I really can't say that unless they've already seen the cartoons. Then those things would be valid. As it is, this is an enjoyable issue. It's written by J.M. DeMatteis, who's a veteran writer. He's been around for decades and worked on a lot of different characters, worked for Marvel and DC. And it's good seeing him getting some work here. The story is pretty simple, but it doesn't need to be complex, really. I would prefer a story that doesn't rely on evil Superman as the antagonist. Again, I think evil Superman is a trope that's kind of worn out and getting tiresome. Now, the artist is named Ethan Beavers. I swear I'm not making that name up. And I'm not familiar with him. He's clearly aping Bruce Timm's artistic style here, which is fine. We're so used to that style for these characters in this world that it would be really jarring to see them drawn differently. And his work here is actually quite solid. His backgrounds are pretty good. His figures are dynamic for the most part. His faces have good expression. His panels don't have a whole lot of depth to them in terms of light and shadow. But again, that's because he's imitating Bruce Timm's more simple style, and that's to be expected. Now, one complaint I would have is the cover. The cover looks fine, but the artistic style here is modern and more realistic and quite different from the art inside the issue. I think they should make the art on the cover more consistent with the feel of the story, because that would potentially, I think, displease some readers if they just grab this based on the cover and don't look inside, and then later they see this more cartoony style. They might not be pleased with that. But the art overall, I mean, I like it. It's good. It's fun. Really like this panel here. So overall, it's a good issue. I give it a thumbs up. If you want to introduce the DCU to a young reader, well, have them watch the animated shows. But then, after they've done that, then give them this. I think they would like it. Let me know what you think. Would this make a good jumping on point for new readers? Should they keep the art consistent with the old shows, or should they do something different? Let me know in the comments, and please do like this video before you leave. Also, please sub to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.